Hello. In this video, I will introduce you to 5 stories that include 5 audio recordings, showing the scary truth behind each of these stories. That first story is that of Timothy Treadwell. This story has to do with a man named Timothy Treadwell, and from now on, I will call him Timothy. Timothy was born in New York, and he loved animals, swimming, and acting. He was especially passionate about acting. So one day, Timothy went to a city called Los Angeles because there would be more opportunities for him to pursue an acting career. In 1985, while passing by a neighborhood, he saw a newspaper looking for actors to audition for a movie. Immediately, Timothy felt that this was an opportunity for him. When he arrived on set, he auditioned for the role of a bartender, because it was the role they needed. After the audition, many people there and Timothy's friends spoke highly of him, feeling that his acting was very good. Timothy was also very confident that he would win the role. But then, something unfortunate happened. Sometime after the audition, Timothy hoped the director would call him back. But after waiting for a long time, he still didn't see anyone calling, and he began to feel nervous. One day, unable to take it anymore, he took the phone to call the director to ask why he had not been selected. That's when the director told him they had found someone better. So, Timothy had failed the casting. Sometime later, while watching TV, Timothy noticed a movie featuring a bartender character, very similar to the role he had auditioned for. But the person playing that role was another actor who became famous after the film. Soon after, Timothy felt very sad and started drinking a lot because he thought that he should leave for the sake of his kind, and he could become famous. After that, Timothy also used stimulants and drugs, causing him to almost die one day due to an overdose. Then one day, he packed up his things and left the house, going somewhere even he didn't know. He only knew that he needed to go out to clear his mind. After arriving at a national park, Timothy came across an animal. It was a brown bear. At first, he was very surprised and panicked, but when he looked closely, he felt that this bear was gentle, so he got closer to observe it. He saw that the bear was not aggressive and didn't appear to intend any harm. Later that day, Timothy felt a special closeness to the brown bear, and at that moment he realized that he had to protect such bears. Later, Timothy became a bear environmental activist. After a long time, he finally realized his purpose in life. From there, Timothy started to become a very active environmental activist, protecting animals, mainly brown bears. He put all his heart into this work. Since then, Timothy has frequented places such as national parks and wildlife areas. He went into the forest to film documentaries of moments of close contact with bears. His documentaries attracted attention because he approached bears at extremely close distances. In addition, Timothy traveled everywhere to teach people about bear behavior, helping them understand them better and thereby know how to protect them. In 2003, Timothy and his girlfriend went to an area with a lot of brown bears, Katmai National Park in Alaska. There, Timothy and his girlfriend set up a tent by the lake to camp and recorded a documentary about a certain bear. Before leaving, Timothy called the pilot to arrange a pickup a few days later. On the day of the appointment, Timothy's pilot flew to an area in the park to pick them up. As instructed, the pilot dived the plane and went deep into the forest to search, but he saw no one. So he called Timothy's contact several times. However, after a few rounds of searching and not finding, the pilot felt that something was wrong and decided to call the investigation force to assist. Later, investigators found that Timothy's hut had collapsed, torn badly as if it had just experienced a strong attack. Later that day, they found the body of a man, Timothy, but his face was severely disfigured. Not long after, they also found Timothy's girlfriend in a nearby area, her body having been scattered, body parts lying in various places. By this time, they had determined that Timothy and his girlfriend had been killed by bears, because Timothy was someone who frequently interacted with bears. After that, there was a bear that made the investigators and rangers attack it because it was very aggressive. And after they attacked this bear, they realized that inside its stomach, there were some human bones and also some pieces of clothing. Thus, they concluded that this was the bear that attacked and ate Timothy and his girlfriend. Before the incident, Timothy had recorded the entire process of his experience with bears, including the moment when he was attacked by a bear. And the following is the recording. Actually, this recording, as far as I know, may not be the original but just a remake, because the original recording has been destroyed. Therefore, it cannot be confirmed whether this is a real recording. And in the end, Timothy's story could have been avoided because so many people had reminded him to be careful with bears and to always bring tools for self-defense. But for Timothy, the bear was his best friend. He absolutely trusts them and almost never takes precautions when in close contact.
The second story is that of Byron Smith. In 2012, while in Minnesota, the police heard a phone call, so they picked up the phone to listen. Then the person who called was a man. He told the police where he was and at the same time reported that there were 2 human bodies there. After that, the police immediately went to the man's house and he went out to meet them. This is a man named Byron Smith, 64 years old, and that day, he led the police back to his home. Soon after, he began to go down to the basement and led the police to a place. Later, he showed the police that there were 2 human bodies there. The 2 people were identified as an 18-year-old female named Kiefer and a 17-year-old male named Brady. And then the man said he had a gun and shot them with the reason that they had broken into his house. So Byron thought that this was his legitimate self-defense, so he felt very safe when he called the police. Soon after, the police began to look at the bodies of these 2 people and saw that they had multiple gunshot wounds. It turns out that they were shot by Byron. But there was a problem. Byron didn't have any wounds on his body. Proving that he was not attacked, he said that he shot them in self-defense. While examining the bodies, the police noticed that there was a tape recorder nearby. This tape recorder, when they checked, had recorded the entire process of Byron shooting and attacking these 2 young people. But this particular recording is very long, about 30 minutes, and mostly features Byron's voice talking alone, seemingly speaking to the bodies of the 2 people he shot. After hearing the recording, the police began to investigate Byron further. In the past, Byron had often discovered that money had gone missing, even though he had hidden it carefully, and he had lost other items too. Then one day, when he looked out the window, he saw a couple, a man and a woman, leaving and getting into a car. It seemed they had stolen from him. As soon as he ran out, the car drove away, and he didn't have time to catch them. This was the area around Byron's house, and those 2 people had broken into his house many times, not just once. That's why he felt very angry. One day, Byron visited a nearby neighbor to chat. Then he immediately noticed a familiar car heading toward his house. It was the car of the 2 people who had often broken into his home. So he quickly told the neighbor he had something to do and left right away. Then he quickly ran home, knowing there was a shortcut. He immediately went down to the basement and turned off the lights. At that time, he also prepared another recorder and had a plan in mind. Soon after, the car of the 2 teenagers arrived, and they broke into Byron's house through the window as usual. After entering, they agreed to split up. The woman went the other way, and the young man decided to go down to the basement. When he went down, it was very dark because the lights weren't on. At that point, Byron had already been sitting there for a long time. Because the young man couldn't see him, Byron pulled out his gun and shot him. The young man immediately fell down the stairs. After walking around, the woman couldn't see the other person. At the same time, she heard a noise from the basement, so she immediately ran downstairs to check. As soon as she got down there, she was shot by Byron and fell straight down the stairs. Because Byron had been broken into by these 2 many times, he decided to get revenge by planning ahead. And while he was killing them, he recorded everything. Most of the recording sounds like Byron mocking them. Here are some short segments from that recording.
You're dead. I felt like I was cleaning up a mess. Worse than spilled food. Worse than vomit. Worse than shit.
After all, Byron always claimed he acted in self-defense. But because he had planned it in advance, he was sentenced to life in prison for intentionally killing others. That third story is about students at the University of Idaho. This story happened near the University of Idaho in Moscow, also in the state of Idaho. In 2022, there was a group of friends consisting of 5 women between the ages of about 20 and 21. They were all students at the University of Idaho and were looking to find a rental home for all 5 of them. After searching, they found a house like this. On the outside, it looked quite simple, but on the inside, It was very spacious and very compact. The room was also big enough for all 5 people. So as soon as the 5 of them came to see the house, they only needed to walk in a few steps and they were immediately satisfied. And they all agreed to rent this house and split the rent to pay. Sometime later, a woman in the group of friends named Xana met a boyfriend named Ethan and took him back to introduce her friends. Soon after, the 5 girls and Ethan took a picture together, and Ethan felt that they got along very well and played very well with his girlfriend's friends. That same year, on January 12th, at their home, Ethan drove over to pick up Xana in the evening. They attended a party held at the school and stayed out very late that night. At the same time, 2 friends in the group also left the house that night and went out. They went to a bar to have a drink. At this time, there were only 2 friends left in the house. The 2 of them didn't go out to play, but stayed home to sleep early. That day, at 2 a.m., Ethan drove over to take Xana home. At that time, Xana told him she wanted to invite him home to sleep. So Ethan went with Xana into her rented house to sleep overnight. They went up to the 2nd floor, which was Xana's floor, and went into the room to sleep. Around this time, the 2 girls had just returned. They went up to the 3rd floor, which was their floor, to sleep. All of them had returned home safely, but something happened afterward. Just downstairs, 2 of their friends were sleeping when one of the girls woke up because she heard some noises upstairs. So she opened the door to see if anything was wrong, but she didn't see anything and couldn't hear the sound anymore. Then she went back to her room, but continued to hear the noise, so she began to open the door again to check. At that moment, the girl saw something that frightened her, and she immediately closed the door. It was because she saw a masked man walking downstairs from the upper floor in her house. The man walked past her room's door without entering. At that moment, the girl also opened the door slightly to look out, and she became extremely frightened. So she quickly locked the door and hoped that the man would leave the house as soon as possible. After that, the man left. In the morning, the other girl woke up. At that time, they discussed that they had seen a man walking in the house the night before. So instinctively, the 2 of them went upstairs to check, because they had seen the man go downstairs the previous night. When they entered the room, they saw that Xana and Ethan were sleeping. The 2 girls felt it was strange because there was an unusual silence. They saw that Xana and Ethan didn't move at all. Then they went up to the 3rd floor to look. At that time, they saw that the other 2 girls, Madison and Kaylee, were also sleeping and lying very still, which was quite strange. So after that, the 2 girls decided to call more of their friends to come and see. Then they realized something was wrong. As soon as they went down to the 2nd floor to check on Xana and Ethan, they discovered that Xana and Ethan were almost not breathing. So one of the friends insisted on calling the police immediately. The following is the recording of the call they made to the police.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, we gotta go check. She's not waking up.
Is she breathing?
No.
Later, the police discovered that all 4 of them had died: Xana, Ethan, and the 2 girlfriends who had gone out the night before. This is a real photo of the 6 of them. This is Ethan and Xana. And here are the 2 girls who went out that evening. All 4 of them were found dead with stab wounds on their bodies. Later, the police found a knife sheath in Xana's room. At the same time, they also found some fingerprints in the room, so they quickly identified a man. His name is Brian, and his fingerprints matched the knife sheath they found. That night, Brian broke into their house and went upstairs. When he got to the 2nd floor, he entered Xana and Ethan's room either by breaking the lock or because they didn't have one. After entering the room, he used a knife to kill them. He then went up to the 3rd floor and used a knife to stab the 2 girls. He left the house afterward, and fortunately, he didn't check the ground floor. He didn't give a clear reason for the murder, but they believed he wanted to show his intelligence. He wanted to prove to everyone that he could commit a murder without leaving any trace. At the same time, he had a history of autism, which contributed to his crime. Eventually, the police discovered that he had been regularly stalking women and that it was possible he had been stalking the 5 girls since they rented the house. The 4th story is about Paul Stephani. In 1980, on December 31st, in the city of St. Paul, Minnesota, the police heard a call and answered the phone. On the other end was a stranger making a call, and this person's voice sounded like they were crying. Then this person said that there was a girl lying near a railroad track and was seriously injured and wanted the police and emergency services to come and help her. The following is the recording.
Yes, please, this is an emergency. Please send a squad to Pierce Butler Road, Molenberg Manufacturing Company, machine shop. Please, there's an ambulance too. There's a girl hurt there.
Can you tell me what happened to her?
Just hurry, she's laying on the ground in the back by the railroad tracks, by the edge here. Hurry.
What's the address?
I don't know.
Soon after, the police searched and did find a girl lying near a railroad track, and her name was Karen. Shortly after, she was taken to the hospital and survived. In 1981, the police received another call, and this time they immediately recognized it as the voice of the stranger from before. This person also called and cried, and said that he had stabbed someone with a chisel, and then said nothing more. Here is the next recording.
Finally, I just stabbed somebody with a knife stick. I can't stop myself. I keep killing somebody.
After receiving the call, the police didn't know how to proceed with the investigation. They had no other information, so they couldn't do anything more. But sometime later, a group of teenagers walking near a highway under construction saw the body of a girl lying there. The girl's name was Kim Compton, 18 years old, and the police discovered that she had been stabbed so many times that it seemed like she had been stabbed with a chisel, which reminded them of the earlier call from the stranger. After some time, the police received another call from the same stranger. Here is the recording.
I'm sorry I killed that girl. I stabbed her 40 times. Kimberly Compton was the first one. Oh, my faith. I don't know what's the matter with me. I'm sick.
Later, the police found the body of a woman named Barbara Simons, a 40-year-old nurse, who was stabbed 40 times as mentioned in the recording, and the police were unable to identify the killer. In 1982, in the city of Minneapolis, there was a girl named Williams. One day, a stranger drove up to pick her up. She looked inside and saw that the man seemed friendly, so she agreed to let him drive her. Later, when he stopped the car on a stretch of road, she turned around and immediately realized that the man was holding a screwdriver and attacking her, so she fought back right away. The two struggled a lot inside the car. She later found a glass bottle and smashed it on the man's head. The noise was loud enough that a man nearby heard it and ran over to check. At that moment, he was surprised to see a man climbing out of the car and immediately running away without understanding what had happened. Williams was taken to the hospital, and because she survived, she was able to describe the man's face to the police. They quickly located and arrested the man. His name was Paul Stephani, 38 years old. They also found a lot of blood stains inside his car, proving that he was involved in a crime. Speaking of Paul Stephani, he was a person who had been abused since childhood, and when he grew up, he didn't have a stable job. This led to psychological issues, and later they found out that he was involved in the murder of Kimberly and Barbara, the two girls who had received the police call, and he was also the one who made that call. And when talking about Stephani, the police always determined that he had two personalities, one good and one bad, which often appeared at the same time. After killing someone, he often felt very guilty, so he called the police and truly felt like crying a lot because of what he had done, but he didn't know how to stop. Later, Paul Stephani was sentenced to 58 years in prison, but he died there from skin cancer, and he became known as the murderer with the crying voice. That fifth story is the story that involves Weardside Jack. In 1975, right in the United Kingdom, a group of people were walking across a neighborhood when they saw a woman who looked like she had been hit with a hammer and stabbed many times. 1 year later, right at a garbage dump, the police found another woman. She also showed signs of being beaten with a hammer and stabbed a lot. Later, the police found the bodies of several more women, and almost all of them were prostitutes and murdered in almost the same way. In 1978, the police received an incoming mailbox. Inside the letter, they found letters that appeared to challenge the police. Later, the police found something special, which was a piece of tape. So they prepared to call the police and detectives to come, and then put this tape in for everyone to listen and investigate. The following is an audio recording of this tape.
I'm Jack. I see you are still having no luck catching me. I have the greatest respect for you, George. But Lord, you are no nearer catching me now.
After everyone sat down and listened, they didn't find any clues. but they noticed the quality of this man's voice. The man's accent was that of a resident of Weardside, an area in England. Later, the police nicknamed him Weardside Jack because he identified himself as Jack. In order to find this man, the police had to go to an area called Castletown, which was in Sunderland. During this time, the police came here many times to investigate. They interrogated about 40,000 men to try to find the perpetrator, but in the end, no one was found who was a suspect. So in the end, the police spent too much time in vain. In 1981, a group of police officers noticed that there was a car in the parking lot that had a fake license plate. So they came to check the situation inside the car and found that there was a man and a girl who seemed to be a prostitute. So they took this man to the police station. When he was brought back to the police station, he asked for permission to go to the toilet. And after a long time, the police went to the toilet because they had not seen this man return. They checked all the bathroom doors, but found him nowhere. In addition, they found a knife lying in a restroom. So the immediate decision was to arrest him, because he had tried to hide while going to the toilet and also carried a knife, making them more suspicious of him. The man's name was Peter Sutcliffe, 34, and he had confessed to being a murderer. He murdered a total of 13 women, and most of his targets were prostitutes, because he thought that prostitutes were in a lower part of society, so the police would not pay attention to these women. But in the end, he was wrong. After the interrogation, the police brought out a mailbox and a tape and asked Peter to confirm that it was his. But suddenly, he replied that he admitted that he had murdered people, but the letters or videos were not his. So the police didn't ask any more questions. In 2005, a man named John Humble, 49, was arrested by police for disorderly conduct. By the time John Humble was arrested, DNA technology had evolved much more since 2001. Unknowingly, the police took some fingerprints from Weardside Jack's 1978 mailbox, and they discovered that they matched John's. So in the end, they had to ask him more about this case. John is an alcoholic and has a bit of a mental health problem. In the previous time, he had heard about the murders that had occurred, so he had faked a tape and letters that he was the perpetrator just because he wanted to be noticed. And finally, the real murderer was Peter. He committed most of the murders in West Yorkshire. But at that time, as I said earlier, the police lost a lot of resources to investigate the Castletown area, but it was all unnecessary. So in the end, John was sentenced to 8 years in prison for obstructing the investigation. Okay, and those were the 5 stories with 5 audio recordings. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. And now, bye.